Hey guys, welcome back to my follow-up to the Q&A video that I posted 2 weeks ago, or I think a little over 2 weeks ago, in which you, or some of you guys, posted some questions, and as promised, here's the follow-up in which I'm going to answer your questions. This is my first time doing this, so there's a bunch of questions that you guys left there, so thank you very much for participating, and I don't really know how long this is gonna take. Sometimes I like to talk a little bit too much, so bear with me if the video is pretty long, but I do like to give a detailed answers sometimes. And again, I may end up breaking this up into 2 parts, 3 parts, or it may end up being only one video. We'll see how it goes, but for now, I think I'm ready. I have my Imperial Stout here, the cream brulee from Southern Tier Brewery up in New York, 10% alcohol, so I can't promise how this video is gonna end. But anyways, I have my other laptop Chromebook here with the questions. I basically copied whatever you guys left in the comment sections and pasted it in a Word document so it's easier for me to navigate. So let's just get started with the Q&A, and thanks for participating once again, guys. The first question comes from Lawrence Evans, and he asked me, what is your favorite Super Nintendo game, or if you can name just one, maybe I do a top 3. I think I'll mention 2. Off the top of my head, the 2 clear-cut easy choices for me are Super Mario World and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Both a lot of nostalgia involved in my selection, obviously, but I don't think anybody can deny the quality of those games. Super Mario World still remains as my favorite platformer of all time, and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, well, you know, as we all know, it's a classic. It's one of the most highly regarded games of all time, and with a good reason. It's just a fun game overall, very well crafted, and yeah, I would say Mario World and The Legend of Zelda. Which one is better? If I had to pick one out of the 2, I don't know. Maybe I'll leave that for a top 10 Super Nintendo video down the road. I'll leave you guys in suspense a little bit in there, but yeah, if I had to choose my favorite Super Nintendo games, those 2 will be right at the top. So thank you for participating, Lawrence Evans. Moving on, we have Minimal Games, or Me Dylan, as he used to be known here on YouTube. Very long time subscriber of my channel, and likewise I'm sub to him. So thank you for participating, Dylan. He said, congrats. If you could choose one franchise in video games to have its own amiibo lineup, what would it be and what would it include? That's a really good question. I like collecting amiibos. I have a pretty big collection of them. If I had to choose another franchise, it's pretty easy actually. I would go with the Resident Evil games. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, so I wouldn't mind having an amiibo line of Resident Evil characters. And what characters would it include? Well, the more the better. If I could have, you know, obviously the classic characters, you know, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Clara Redfield, you know, those are the classic characters. But if I could have, you know, the enemies, you know, a regular zombie, or Nemesis, or, you know, Cerberus, which is the dog in Resident Evil, or some of the bosses, you know, Mr. X or whatever, I will buy them all. It'll be a pretty dangerous affair if that ends up happening. So yeah, definitely Resident Evil amiibo lineup. It will be really cool. So thanks for asking the question and participating, Mr. Me Dylan, now known as Minimal Games. Next question is Sea Stove, another great channel that I'm sub here on YouTube, and thanks for participating. He said, congrats on 1,000 subscribers. My questions are, number 1, what retro game do you wish will get remastered? Now, I'm not really sure the cutoff that people have for what's called retro games. For me, you know, anything that's, I guess, PS2, GameCube, Xbox already counts as retro for me. I don't know. It really depends. Some people just like to consider the 16-bit and 8-bit era as retro, and it's a tough line to draw in the sand. But going back to the question, I would love to see the Shenmue games remaster, both 1 and 2. Just because in preparation of Shenmue 3, I participated in the Kickstarter, so I would like to play one. Shenmue 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. Period. Shenmue 2, I never was able to finish that game, so I'm looking for ways to do that right now, and it's a little bit tough, but a remastered version will definitely solve that problem for me. So hopefully, I know there's rumors that Sega is trying to remaster those games, but I think there's some problems with licensing and whatnot, so here's hoping that they sort that out and they release the remastered versions of both Shenmue 1 and 2. Next question from Seastove. How would you feel about going to full digital eventually? I am somewhat okay with the idea. In fact, I already own a bunch of digital games, and I'm not saying the typical PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live Gold games that are given out for free each month. I have bought full games, digital full retail releases in digital form, paying full price. Off the top of my head, I have Animal Crossing New Leaf on the 3DS. Bought it day one digital. I have Pokemon X on my 3DS. Also bought it day one digital. Battlefield 4 both on the PS3 and PS4, and I think I'll be doing the same for Battlefield 1 coming up later this year. So I'm not entirely opposed to digital games. I think they have pros and cons, obviously. I really like the idea, or I really enjoyed having the game, access to the game, immediate access to the game. I play a lot of Battlefield games, for example, so it's really convenient for me to not swap, the discs. I already have it on my hard drive on my PS4, so it's really quick, really fast, and very, very convenient. But if I had to choose, obviously, I prefer physical games just because it gives you that power of owning the game, and you can play the game at any time you want. So obviously, I prefer physical, and as you guys can see, every month on my pickups videos, I pick up physical goodies. But I'm not entirely opposed to a digital only future. I would rather not be it that way. I would rather have the options. If you want to buy digital, do it. If you want to buy physical, do it as well. I like having that flexibility and option, and like I said, I've been doing both, but leaning towards the physical retail releases. So I'm not entirely opposed or scared of the digital future. It has a lot of cons, such as the licensing, and you may be able to lose your games at one point. So it's pros and cons, like just about anything. So yeah. And then his last question, number 3. Do you use emulators ever? Absolutely. Not as much anymore. I used to be big into emulators back when I was in high school and early college years. I was a huge Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and MAME, the arcade emulators. I was pretty big into playing those all the time in my computer, in my laptop. Yeah, I'm not completely opposed to emulators, but I've been staying away from them because I'm somewhat lazy. That'll be the answer. Because it's I buy retro games on my Wii U Virtual Console, for example. I bought Earthbound. I bought recently Metroid Zero Mission and Refusion, and yeah, I mean, even though I know I can play those games for free on an emulator, there's something about supporting the company that originally put out the game and buying them and having them on my consoles ready to go at all times. There's something about that still, I guess, draws me, but I'm not opposed to using emulators at all, especially for playing things like SNK games, which are if you want to own a Neo Geo AES system, it's super expensive, and then buying the games, you have to be a millionaire basically in order to afford that luxury of playing Neo Geo games. So no problem at all. I can load them up in my laptop anytime I want. But yeah, I'm not opposed to using emulators, and I've used them before plenty of times. Next up is Playongo. Congrats. What are some of the best deals you remember getting on games or game systems? And this is a fitting question. It's a fitting question because Playongo He has his own eBay store where he sells used and old games, and also protective cases to preserve old games, so which is something really cool. And make sure you go and check out his channel, and I'm sure he has links to his eBay store. And I'm saying it's a fitting question because one of the best deal, he's asking if I got a good deal on a game system, and yes, I bought a Sega Dreamcast, I believe like maybe 3 years ago already. I have a pickup video on my channel going all the way back, and it was funny because it was an eBay listing in which the thumbnail, it was the picture of 3 games, and 2 out of the 3 games I think were sports titles, and I think the other one was like Sonic Adventure or something like that. And I was looking to buy a Sega Dreamcast just to play some games again, because I'm a huge fan of the Sega Dreamcast. In my opinion, my favorite Sega console. So I remember looking for bundles or lots. I think that's the word that eBay uses, you know, game lots. And I saw that one and I clicked on the thumbnail, and the next picture after the thumbnail was a Sega Dreamcast console with the with a controller and all the wires and everything. So I was like, well, this is pretty cool. And then when you read the description, it was written in a very small font that the bundle included those 3 crappy games, plus the controller, the console, the wires, and everything for 20 bucks. I think it was 20 bucks. I don't know. I have to go back to my pickups video from 3 years ago, but I think it was like 20, 25 bucks, something ridiculous like that. And I think the thumbnail fooled a lot of people because nobody bid on it. And I remember I was like, I'm sure I'm going to get sniped towards the end. I'm just going to put the very lowest minimum bid. And sure enough, nobody bid on it. And I won the auction, and I got a Sega Dreamcast, the console, the controller, everything, 3 games for like, I think it was 20 bucks. So I think that's a really good deal. So I was pretty happy, obviously, and that, I think it's a lesson for people, for sellers out there on eBay. Make sure your thumbnail represents your product, otherwise people are not going to click on it. And for me, it was a good thing because I ended up paying much less than a system would go with games included. But yeah, that ended up working up for me pretty well. And as far as games, and again, we're going back to like 3 years ago. In one of my pickups videos, I remember showing you guys I picked up Ogre Battle for the PS1, the limited edition that came with the GameStop or GamePro magazine stickers, and I found that at Goodwill, at my local Goodwill, which is it's almost like a museum for sports games. If you guys are into collecting sports games, let me know, because my Goodwill has every single sports games dating back to like the year 2000, basically. They have every single NBA Live, Madden, NHL hockey, NBA Live. If you guys are into that, let me know. You can get the whole collection there. So I don't usually stop there because I know exactly what the types of games that they have in there. And to top that off, they sell every single game at $4, I think. Which is, you know, for outdated sports games, who's gonna pay $4 for Madden 06, for example, you know, which is the reason why they can sell, and they keep accumulating all these older sports games. But the good thing is that every game is $4, so you can either get Madden 06, but if you're able to find a rare game for $4, then it's your win, right? And that's exactly what happened. I went there and they had Ogre Battle. I forgot the subtitle of the game, but it's one of the PS1 games. Really good condition. It had the double jewel case with the manual and the GamePro magazine stickers, which those are important because that's what drives the price of the game up. If you go on eBay, the versions that come with those stickers are considered more expensive. And last time I checked, that game was going for like $150 in really good condition on eBay. Maybe it has gone up ever since then. So I still have the game. I haven't played it yet. I know the PS3s can play PS1 games, so I'll probably get around to it at one point or another. But yeah, that was my game deal that I found out there in the wild. So Play Ongos, thanks for participating, and make sure you check out his channel and eBay store. Let me drink a little bit here. Next question comes from Tinoshki07 or Tinoshke07. I'm sorry. This person has been a long time commenter or commenter comments a lot of my videos basically for a very long time. So thank you so much for participating on my channel and always leaving very valuable input and comments. So I really appreciate your support on my channel. I remember from older videos that you're a big soccer fan. Yes. So my first question is, which team is your all-time favorite? Well, I'm originally from South America, more specifically from Paraguay. So my team is my local team is Olympia of Asunción, Paraguay. It's a big team in South America. We have won a couple of international tournaments, and it's the most winning team in Paraguay. So I know not a whole lot of people are gonna know that team, obviously, but I grew up there, and that's my original team. But if I had to pick a famous team that everybody knows, my grandfather, he was originally born in Spain, more specifically in Barcelona. So you can probably guess I'm a huge FC Barcelona fan, and everybody knows who Barcelona is in if you like soccer, obviously. So yeah, due to my family past and my grandfather more specifically, I have a little bit of Catalonian blood in my veins, so I have to support FC Barcelona. But my top team is Olympia from Paraguay. That's my number one, and number two, FC Barcelona from Spain. The second question, being a big soccer fan plus some other things that you said over the years, I conclude that you're not originally from the US. So from where are you originally from, and how did you end up living in the States? Well, I just mentioned I'm originally from Paraguay, South America, and how I ended up living here in the US. Well, ever since I was 9 years old, little kid, I have relatives that live here in the United States, in Florida, in the state of Florida. And my reward for getting good grades back then when I was a little kid was every summer vacation that I got in school, my reward was to come and visit my aunt and uncle that live here in Florida. So ever since I was 9 years old, I would come every summer here in the United States. And what ended up happening is once I graduated from high school in Paraguay, they offered me, hey, do you want to come over and attend college here? So I was like, yeah, why not? So I ended up graduating, and then I don't know if you guys can hear there's a thunderstorm coming up, but anyways, we'll keep going. And then I went to university here in the U.S. and then I got to work and everything, and I've been here in the U.S. since I think 2003 already. So I've been living here for a long time, but that's basically how I came here. I came to do college or university, and then graduated and got to work and so forth. So yeah, that's my story, how I ended up here in the US. So thank you for the questions. Next up, I think it's a new subscriber, Bucksflex. He's saying, trying to catch up with all the content. My questions are, what upcoming games are you looking forward the most? Whoa. Basically, revert back to my E3 video, I guess. Zelda for the Wii U or NX, that's my number one most hyped game at the moment. A lot of the new PS4 games coming out, such as Horizon, the Detroit game by Quantic Dreams. Man, right now you caught me in a off position. What is this coming up? Yeah, Horizon, Battlefield 1, which I'm a huge Battlefield fan, so I'm going to be getting that game, obviously. There's a lot of games that I'm interested, like the new God of War game, Days Gone. I'm not really interested in that game, but just a little bit. Yeah, I usually get excited for new releases. I don't get them necessarily on day one most of the time, but yeah, if I had to pick one game, I would probably say The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild for the NX or Wii U. I'm definitely excited towards that game. And the number 2 probably Horizon Zero Dawn, I think it's called. And then I have Resident Evil 7, for example. I really want to know more about that game before I fully commit my hype to that game. But that game is looking that game is looking great as well. And then the Resident Evil 2 remake, for example, and so forth. So I'll be here all day if I'm listing every single game I'm excited for. But there are plenty of good games, in my opinion, that are coming out our way. His second question: what do you think of game reviews? They're necessary, I think. I think a lot of people have problems with game reviews. There's a lot of, I think, unfairness sometimes. I think that games that are being published by big publishers like Activision and EA sometimes get the VIP treatment, if you know what I mean, in the sense that when a Grand Theft Auto game comes out, it's gonna get a 10 or at least a 9.8 or 9.9, something like that. A new Call of Duty game always gets good scores. A new Metal Gear game always gets good scores. And sometimes I don't agree with those super high, 10 out of 10 perfect scores. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that as well. So it's a little bit sketchy. It's a topic on itself, to make a video on itself. But I think they're necessary. Game reviews are necessary in order to find out if a game has glitches or bugs. I think in that regard, reviewers are honest at least, and they let you know beforehand if the game runs pretty well or what the game is all about. But the scoring is, at the end of the day, reviews are just opinions basically. So I've learned that you need to learn how to respect those opinions and move on. And ultimately, it's you, the player, who has the final saying. I've played games that reviewed horribly that I liked, and vice versa. I've played highly praised or critically acclaimed games that I just could not get into it. So I think reviews are necessary. They're a good thing, but don't just take everything word by word, and ultimately you're the one that has to try the games and make a judgment for yourself. Why impressions videos and not reviews? I'm assuming in regards to why I name my videos impressions instead of reviews. Well, when I hear the word reviews, I think of it as a more of a professional thing, like a video game magazine or a video game website or a video game blog, something like a person that gets paid to do that will do. Which is why I use the word impressions, because at the end of the day, I'm not a professional reviewer. I don't work in the video game industry. I'm just a regular guy who works, 9 to 6 every day and comes home from work and likes to play video games. So that's my honest impressions. When I do a video, I give you my honest impressions about what I feel about the game, the story, the graphics, the gameplay, and whatnot. So reviews for me, it's a little bit too much of a professional word. When I think of reviews, I automatically think that sometime, if it's an article or a video, you're gonna get some kind of grade, like out of 10, out of 100, or a letter grade. And I don't do that in my channel because I don't think I'm qualified to do that. It's just my very basic and vague opinion of a game. So that's why I use the word impressions and not reviews. And which is why I like other channels here on YouTube, smaller channels that do the same thing, like Dustin Christ, for example. He calls his videos, he doesn't call them reviews, he calls them discussions. And or Steven the Laggy Gamer, for example, he calls most of his videos my thoughts on this game right here, which I think is a cool way of getting around using the word review, which again, in my opinion, is a little bit more of a professional. It has more of a professional connotation, which I don't necessarily do that. So that's why I use the word impressions. What do you think about the controversy with Mighty Number 9? What do you think about kickstarting and crowdfunding games? Mighty Number 9, again, that's a topic for a completely different video. I think this is a case of a game that got handled poorly, which is a little bit of a surprise, obviously, because you have somebody like Keiji Inafune behind the whole Kickstarter process. So you would think that by you donating money to him, you will be in good hands, because he's an experienced person. His staff is supposed to be comprised of people that have worked in the industry previously, and literally everything went wrong. This game got delayed 1,000 times, and the end product seems to be pretty below average, unfortunately, according to reviews and early impressions at least. So I think it's an unfortunate issue. Thankfully, I did not donate to this game at all, so I feel safe in that regard. But going to your next point, what do you think about kickstarting and crowdfunding games? I've done it before. I backed Shenmue 3, which is, I'm a little bit scared now because of what happened with Mighty Number 9. But at the same time, I have that relief that Sony is kind of like involved in publishing the game. So I trust that Sony will try and keep Yu Suzuki in line with a quality product. I'm crossing my fingers at least. And I'm trying to think what other game. Oh, I kickstarted Yooka-Laylee by the former staff of Rare, which I'm a little bit. I'm not scared of the quality of the final product, because I've seen during E3, I think they showed a demo on how the game is looking, and the game looks good and it looks fun, which is pretty cool. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna do this whole thing where they're gonna release a physical version for the PS4, for the Wii U, once the game is out. And I would have, if I would have known that, I would have just not donate to the Kickstarter and wait for the PS4 or Wii U version of the game. And it's not confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure that's what's gonna happen. But hey, in the end, I'm gonna have my name on the credits or something like that. So, yoo-hoo, and good for me, I guess, in supporting them in their dream of creating a game. But yeah, going back to the Mighty Number 9, it was a very strange case in my opinion. A very unfortunate case, because I know a lot of people donated a ton of money, and to have a game being below average like that is just inexcusable. And the delays, especially because at the end of the day, it's a side-scrolling shooter type of game like Mega Man, obviously. So all these delays and just the way the game looks, there's something very wrong about this game that it'll definitely affect the reputation of Keiji Inafune going from this point forward. So really bad thing for him, I guess. Number 5, what do you think about VR, virtual reality, I'm assuming? I will be making a separate video because I have experienced both the HTC Vive and the PlayStation VR recently, in just a couple last days here. So definitely look forward to that video coming up pretty soon. So thanks for the questions and welcome to the channel. Next up, we have a good buddy of mine here on YouTube, the Leo the Funny Nerd. He did not post a comment on my video, but he did send me the questions via Facebook Messenger, because we talk a lot in there. So thanks, Leo, for participating. And before I do that, let me have a sip. Okay. What do you look for in a game? It's pretty simple. I look for a fun experience. It's really hard to gauge that just by looking at a game. You really have to sit down and play the game in order to find out if a game is fun. But yeah, ultimately, it's fun is or as I call it, the enjoyment that I get out of a game is the number one thing. Which is why I'm very, I guess, I like a lot of different types of games. I have no problems playing a kiddie platformer on a Nintendo console, as much as I don't have a problem playing a mature, story-driven game like The Last of Us. If I can get enjoyment out of a game, whether it's a platformer or whether it's a Hollywood-esque type of high-quality budget production game, I'm in. If it's an RPG and it's fun, I'm in. If it's a fighting game and it's fun, I'm in. Regardless of how the graphics look, regardless of how the sound or the story of the game is. Obviously, those factors help sometimes in creating a better experience in a better game, but the single one thing that I look for in a game, it's fun. To me, games are like basically toys, really. You try to find enjoyment out of it as much as you can. So again, I don't have any problems playing any types of games for any console, for any manufacturer, any publisher, any developer. As long as the game is fun, I will be supporting or playing that game. How do you decide which game is worth full price and which one needs a discount? That's a very good question, especially in these modern buying games days, because games right now are dropping down in price extremely quickly. So my policy for deciding what games are worth full price is, am I gonna play the game for a very long time? Am I going to enjoy the game? How much content the game includes? But most importantly, who is publishing the game? If it's a third party like EA, Activision, or even Sony, or Sony first party games, they drop down in price so quickly. So I don't have that itch or need to buy those games on day one. I have no problems being a patient person and just waiting a little bit before I make my purchase. Now, when we talk about Nintendo, that's a whole different story, because Nintendo games, they tend not to drop in price very frequently, and I usually buy them on day one. If I know I'm going to play the game, if I know the game is going to be fun, I just pull the trigger and buy it on day one. Case in point, the Star Fox Adventures, the Mario games, Super Smash Brothers, and so forth. Yeah, $60, sure, have my money here. I know it's not going to drop down in price anytime soon. But there are special cases. For example, Battlefield 1, an upcoming game. I'm going to pre-order. I'm going to get it on day one. Why? Because I'm a huge fan of the Battlefield series. And two, because it's an online game. And in these games, if you buy the game like a month after the game released, you're already behind. People are going to be leveled up. They're going to have better gear. And for somebody like me who takes online gaming a little bit seriously, that's a huge disadvantage. So for a game like Battlefield 1 or any Battlefield game for that matter, I just pay upfront $60, no problem. I made that mistake with Splatoon. I was a little bit undecisive. Should I buy this game? Should I not buy this game? And I bought it like a month after it released, and I got destroyed online by all these Japanese players who were experts on the game. Nevertheless, I had fun with the game, but it just goes to show you that online games have a little bit of a different, approach. And then, of course, the sales. If I know Black Friday is just a few months away, I wait, because, as you know, Leo, there's plenty of good deals during Black Friday here in the U.S. So if I can be patient and wait a few months, then I'm sure there's always good deals going around Black Friday. So, yeah. Next question: are games too violent, and does it matter? Yes, they are very violent. There's a good number of them that are very violent. Does it matter? Not really. I grew up playing Mortal Kombat, doing fatalities to my opponents, and I never became a serial killer, or never felt the need to be a violent person at all. If a game wants to be violent, then so be it. I do have a problem with games that try to use violence as a mean of marketing their own game. I think some games try to be way too cool, and they try to go over the top with over the top violence and gore and blood and guts going everywhere. And if a game is using that as its main marketing tool instead of using the gameplay or the graphics or the story, then I start having a little bit of a problem. But for the most part, I play violent games. And to me, it doesn't really matter too much. Should games strive to send a cultural and philosophical message, or just entertain? I'm gonna vote for entertain as the #1 priority. if they can send some kind of cultural or philosophical message, then so be it. Why not? But yeah, for me, like I said in my previous responses, fun and enjoyment are my number one priorities when playing a video game. So yeah, that's if the games can send a message, that's great. If not, it's okay. You know, like playing a Mario game, a platformer. There's no message. Just have fun with the game. But then there's games, more deep games like the BioShock games where you sit down and you try to think what the hell's going on and thinking about the story, thinking about the political views of the characters and things like that. That's really fun as well. So I'm okay with both approaches, but my number one priority is the entertainment. So thank you, Leo, for participating. He did so via Facebook, so thanks for doing that. Let me have another sip before we go to the next person. And time-wise, 36 minutes so far. I think we're doing good, or not really good. It's half an hour already, but let's keep it rolling. Ultimate Floyd 1, another one of my favorite channels here on YouTube. Been subbed to him for a very long time, so thanks, Scott, for participating. Congrats on 1,000 subs, Bruno. As for questions, let's see. What are your favorite Beatles and Nirvana albums? Well, you just hit the point there. Those are two of my favorite bands of all time. For the Beatles, I can give you a top three really quick. I'm going to start with the number 3 choice. The White Album. It's a double-sided album. I know a lot of people think they just have filler in those 2 discs, but for me, I can listen to that to those 2 discs and I have a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of variety in the songs, so I really love the White Album. I think it has a lot of content and a lot of good content at that, except for Revolution 9. That song is not among my favorite ones, but the rest of the album is high quality content. For number 2, I would go with Revolver, which is 1966 release and a very influential album, and I just love the sound and the songs, and you can really see the maturity of the Beatles starting to kick off. And my number 1 choice is Rubber Soul, which is it was released previous to Revolver. And in my opinion, that is the defining album of the Beatles as far as them becoming a more mature band as far as songwriting and music-wise. They really became good musicians starting with Rubber Soul. So that's my favorite album of all time. And just while we're in the matter, my, what do you call this, the bottle holder or whatever, it's Beatles related, Let It Be. So yeah, I love the Beatles, my favorite band of all time. So thanks for asking that. And Nirvana albums, yeah, I know it's gonna be a generic response, but I truly think Nevermind is their best album. With that being said, I really like In Utero, which is their last album released in '93. The problem with In Utero is that it has a lot of good songs. It has a very nice raw and aggressive sound that I really liked. But there's a couple of songs that are just way too aggressive, and like Jesus Christ, I can't even remember. There are a couple of songs where Kurt Cobain he's just screaming on the microphone, and they're very abstract and a little bit too out there for me. But I think some of the other songs, like All Apologies, Heart Shaped Box, Serve the Servant, Penny Royalty, and all that, they're great songs. That make In Utero a very good album, but Nevermind is, I know it's a generic choice. I know it's a lot of people love that album as well, but I truly think it's their best quality album out there. So yeah, number 2, what are some well-loved games that you have a hard time getting into? I think plenty of well-loved games I have not really experienced. Number 1 choice that I can think of is Final Fantasy. I have never finished a Final Fantasy game, and I think you can relate to that because it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I think you finally beat a Final Fantasy game. So I'm still overdue to do that, and in all honesty, I'm not in a hurry to do that. I have other RPGs on my queue list. I'm currently playing through Fire Emblem, the Birthright on the 3DS, and after that, I have other games set on my priority list on top of other Final Fantasy games. But I know Final Fantasy is a beloved franchise. I played 7, I played 10, a couple of hours each, and I think they're good games. They're quality games. They just were not good enough to hold my attention in order to finish them all the way through. Maybe one day I'll do that. Another popular franchise that I have not tried it yet. It's Mass Effect, but I haven't played any of the games really. But it's on my to-do list. Because I have the trilogy on the PS3, so I'm definitely looking forward into playing the Mass Effect games. And another one is the Metal Gear games. I only finished Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1, and I did play Metal Gear Solid 2 on the PS2 extensively, but I was never able to finish the game. So that's another series that I'm having a hard time getting into because of the complex story. And the longer I wait to get into the series, the more games are released, and the story gets even more complex. So my motivation to play the Metal Gear games keeps going down and down and down. But I do own that Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection, or whatever it's called, on the PS3. That it basically has all the games except Metal Gear Solid 5, obviously. So I will definitely try and get into those games because they're not very long, and I think I can get into them without any issues. But that's down the road in the future. Let's see, what else? What is your favorite movie? What is a movie you really hated? Jeez, I'm not a really big movie person. What is my favorite? Okay, my favorite movie, and I know it's gonna be a goofy choice, but The Big Lebowski. I can honestly watch that movie over and over again, and I know it's not a serious movie. Obviously, it's a comedy, but I just love the movie so much that I can watch it over and over and over again. I'm a big fan of independent types of movies, foreign movies as well, Italian, Spanish movies, South American movies as well. So I don't have a clear-cut choice in that regard, but The Big Lebowski, I'll go with that. Well, why not? And what is a movie you really hated? I don't know. Back when I was in college, I was dating this girl that really liked the Harry Potter movies, and we went to see like Harry Potter. I think it was 7. And I hated the movie because I never read the books. I did not know what was going on. But if I had to be honest, that was a very unpleasant experience, I guess, because I was there in the movies just watching and not understanding what the hell was going on. So I'm gonna go with that. I know a lot of people like the Harry Potter movies and novels and books and everything, but me being there without knowing anything, it was I just hated it. So that's that. If you could live in any state, which one would it be? I would probably say I don't know, New York maybe. I've been to New York twice, and in Manhattan obviously, and it's plenty of things to do. Manhattan restaurants, Central Park, museums, nightclubs left and right. So probably New York, or I always wanted to visit the Washington or the Washington area. I've never been there, but I have a couple of friends that live there, and everything about it seems to be cool. But I've never been there, so I can't really confirm that. But it sounds like a cool place to live. And then California also is pretty cool because you have mountains, you have the the beach. You can ski, you can go to the beach, and you have forests and things like that. So California, I visited California. I have a friend that lives in San Diego, and I went to visit him a couple of years ago, and it was beautiful. So I wouldn't mind California either, but I live in Florida, and I like it, except during summertime. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a freaking thunderstorm right now out there. So that's the only thing I hate about Florida. The summertime, it gets really humid and hot, and there are storms every day, basically. So, but other than that, I love Florida because of the warm weather and short winters, and obviously going to the beach and everything like that. So, yeah. And favorite and least favorite controller. I know I've done a video on this a long time ago. I don't have a clear-cut winner as of now, but I think a safe choice would be the DualShock 4 from the PlayStation 4. It's very, very comfy, very easy to use, and an improvement over the DualShock 3 in my opinion. However, I think the most comfortable controller, as far as being a comfy controller, I'm gonna have to go with the GameCube one. That controller fits like a glove, basically. It's so much fun holding the controller, but the only issue I have with that one is the button layout. I don't like the A button being huge, and then the B button was like really small, and then you have the Y and X buttons like curved like that. I never understood the reasoning behind that. But other than that, holding that controller and resting your fingers on the L and R triggers, it's super comfy. So my vote goes to the GameCube controller as far as being comfortable, and the PS4 as an overall winner. And another one that I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me, but I really like the gamepad of the Wii U. Just the way it feels, the way you can hold the controller, very comfortable on the triggers. I have big hands, so I don't mind the size of the gamepad. I don't know, it has a really good D-pad, very classic setup with the Y, X, and A and B buttons, and the gamepad is very comfortable and very cool because you have the screen, you can have off TV gameplay and all that. But yeah, the DualShock 4 probably gets my #1 vote. And that's the end of Scott's questions. So let me have another sip and move on. Okay. Next up is Fabrilon, another great YouTuber, great channel. I shouted him out in previous videos, so if you guys like RPGs, go and check out his channel. Really good content. Anyways, congratulations on the 1,000 subs, Bruno. Totally deserved, and this channel is awesome. The only questions I have are, which is the generation or specific game that made you really fall in love with gaming? Pretty simple choice, 16-bit era Super Nintendo. Game, Super Mario World. I am old enough that when I was a very little kid, the NES was the the dominating console, the prevailing console out there. And I know a lot of people have very nostalgic and fond memories of the NES, the 8-bit era. But for some reason, I liked it. I played the NES. That was the first console that I ever played in my life. But for some reason, it didn't grab me. And it wasn't until I tried the Super Nintendo for the first time that I was like, whoa, this is really cool. I want to have a Super Nintendo, and I want to have Super Mario World so I can play this game over and over and over again. So the Super Nintendo, the 16-bit era, is the one that really started my passion for games. Can you do a video about your favorite games and movies, like a top 10 or something, if you have one, if you haven't done one already? No, I have not, but my plan is to do one in the near future. Top 10 games of all time. But so yeah, I will leave that as a work in progress. So if you can hold until I do that, I will definitely do that. Movies, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a pretty big movie person. As I mentioned before, my favorite movie of all time is The Big Lebowski. I do enjoy other types of movies, and I think by watching your videos, I know you mentioned, I think you're either from Italy or you lived in Italy. I'm a big fan of Italian cinema or movies, and movies like Il Postino, La Vita Bella, Cinema Paradiso. I really like Italian movies, and I would definitely include those three in my top 10 movies of all time, just because I love those three that I mentioned. But yeah, I expect to see a top 10 games of all time video sometime in the future, so stay tuned. What are your hobbies beside gaming? Soccer. Playing soccer, watching soccer, and when I say playing soccer, I mean in real life. Like I play every Wednesday night. We have a league with a bunch of friends. So yeah, soccer, playing actual soccer, watching soccer. I can watch any league, European leagues, Italian, Spain, English Premier League, South American, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Copa America, Euro Cup, World Cup. Anything that is soccer related, I can watch it. I used to be pretty big into Formula One as well. If you guys are from Europe, you know exactly what I mean. My passion for that has gone down a little bit over the last few years, but I do enjoy watching Formula One racing a lot. And I guess going, just hanging out with people, exploring breweries here in Florida. There's a resurgence, or there's a new market for a lot of breweries, and so I do like going every now and then during the weekends. My buddies and I, we go and explore new breweries. Craft beer, basically. We like to explore different flavors, different types of beers, and there's a pretty good beer culture scene here in Florida, which I know it's hard to believe, but we have some pretty good breweries down here, so I like drinking beer, basically, and exploring the different types of beers, obviously. Those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. What are some of your favorite game developing studios? Well, the obvious answer, the typical ones, Nintendo. Obviously, I've been playing Nintendo games for over 20 years, so they're a high quality company, so they're my clear-cut number one choice. But we have other developer studios like Naughty Dog, for example. I really enjoy the Uncharted games, and even their older work, like the Crash Bandicoot games, the Jak and Daxter, and so forth. So I really enjoy their content, The Last of Us, and everything like that. And I do like some of the weird Japanese developers, like Grasshopper manufacturer, Suda51. Their games are not quality. They have plenty of glitches and technical things going on against them. Yeah, I do like me some Suda51 games, No More Heroes, Killer 7, and all that weird stuff. And speaking of Japanese developers that are weird, Platinum Games, basically, Mad World, Bayonetta, and a lot of other quality games. One of the last ones that I can think of, The Wonderful 101 for the Wii U, which is a very unique, very weird game. That's another one. And Capcom as a whole, I know they have different franchises, but I have a huge respect for Capcom. They've done the Resident Evil games, the Mega Man games, Street Fighter, Monster Hunter. They have a fantastic library of games that I really, really enjoy. So between those that I mentioned, I think they have very high quality games. Where are we here? What are some of your guilty pleasures in gaming, music, and movies? Guilty pleasures. Let me have a drink while I think about that. I can't think of anything at the moment, to be honest. Guilty pleasures. I don't know. I guess I enjoy, for example, when I buy a game, I enjoy looking at the cover art, the back of the games. If it has like an instruction booklet, I enjoy flipping through it just to admire just the art and the work they put into that. But I don't know if you can consider that a guilty. I don't know. There's nothing guilty about that. I'll think about it and send you a private message or something if I can think of an answer. Sorry guys, this is not scripted or anything, and I'm reading the questions as they are coming in, so I guess I wasn't prepared for this answer, and I can't think of anything at the moment. So thanks Fabrelon for the questions. Next up is a newer subscriber, Random Mark 3087. He also has a YouTube channel, so if you want to check it out, go and do so. Congratulations, here's a question for you. What's your favorite game of all time? This seems to be a recurring question in every single Q&A video that every channel does on YouTube. Your favorite game of all time? Well, I mentioned this in the past, but yeah, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It's my favorite game of all time. I know, very generic answer again, because Ocarina of Time is the highest rated game of all time. Pretty much every review for that game is a 10 out of 10, and there's a good reason behind that, and there's a good reason why it's my favorite game of all time. It's just a masterpiece, and you really had to live that era. You know, during 1998 when the game got released, there was nothing like it before, and it was the very first 3D Zelda game, so the hype for that game was through the roof, and this is one of the very few games in history that managed to outlive and surpass the hype. A lot of games, they built up the hype, people are hyped for these games, and then when the game releases, people get disappointed because the game just did not live up to that hype. But The Legend of Zelda managed to destroy just about any expectations. The game was a masterpiece for its time, and in terms of graphics, gameplay, controls, and it was just a fantastic game. And I measure my things as far as enjoyment, and that one game provided me the biggest enjoyment out of any other game that I've ever played in my life. So The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64. Generic response. I know a lot of magazines and reviewers out there, they keep mentioning that as the top game of all time, but there's a reason why this game is always number one in those lists. So thanks for asking that question, Random Mark. Next up is Auslug 007, which is another person that comments on my videos very frequently, so I really appreciate all the support, man. Always offering very good comments and input via the comments section, and he went all out, and he has a bunch of questions, so let's tackle this. Let's see. I don't know how long you have lived in South America, but what are some pros and cons of each place you have lived in? South America, pros, people are really friendly. It's a beautiful place to grow up and live. There's a lot of when people ask me about Paraguay, my original country, and they ask me what is it there to do in Paraguay, there's not a whole lot if you're a tourist, to be honest, but I still love it because it's a place where I grew up, where your friends are, and just the very simple and humble things in life, such as the warmth of the people living in there. It really what makes those places. The people are very humble, very there's a lot of humility in the people, and I really appreciate that. The cons, the crime. Unfortunately, third world countries are like this, and there's a lot of crime, unfortunately. And you know, here in the U.S., if I want to put my sneakers, I can go out in a jog in my neighborhood right now. I know I'm not going to be robbed, or it's very unlikely that I'm going to be robbed or kidnapped or something like that. Whereas in South America, you always have that risk. I only been robbed once, and it's when I went to the stadium, which is a very dangerous place to go when you live in South America. And I went to this game, and I got robbed. They took my shirt off because it was an official shirt, Olympia shirt. But you're always running that risk. You always have this unsafe feeling when you're walking the streets in downtown or anything. You always have to be careful. Whereas here in the U.S., for example, I feel more safe. Weird things can happen. You know, there's a lot of weird things here, and that, I guess, that goes to the pros and cons of living here in North America, for example, where You could be walking or shopping in Walmart, and a deranged person can walk into Walmart and start shooting people. I don't know why, but it happens a lot in here. Or people that go into a church and kill people, or people that you go to a nightclub. You know what happened here in Orlando not too long ago. You know, you're having fun with your friends, significant others or whatever, and somebody walks into the nightclub and starts killing people. That kind of thing doesn't happen in South America, but it happens here in the US. So pros and cons of living in places like this. Crazy world. There's no perfect place out there, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. And the source of the problem is mankind, unfortunately. We are the source of the problem, and yeah, it's unfortunate. Do you have any other hobbies besides gaming? I already answered that question. If you just tune into this video, just go back a couple of minutes ago. What's the hardest and most satisfying game you finished, either because of challenge, length, work, etc., or all of the above? I felt very accomplished after getting my platinum trophy on Batman Arkham Asylum, just because completing those challenges were it was a really hard challenge. And the same thing goes for the Rayman Origins. Another game that was really challenging, and once you get the platinum, those two games that I mentioned, when you get the platinum trophy, you have the feeling of that you truly have conquered the game, and you know everything about that game. So that was a really good feeling. Also, beating Vanquish on hard difficulty, which is something that I don't ever want to do again. I don't know why. When I started Vanquish, I said to myself, I think I want a challenge. I'm gonna play this game on hard, and I do this every now and then. And I go the other way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this because, oh yeah, look, I play games on hard difficulty. No, sometimes I say to myself, I don't want a challenge. I just want to enjoy the story. I'm gonna play this on easy mode. But for Vanquish, I was on a challenge mood, I guess, and I was like, I'm gonna play this game on hard difficulty, and it was pretty damn hard, especially the final boss fight. I was pulling my hair out, but I guess those are some of my most satisfying games I finished. Yeah. What's your favorite food or type of food? I have Italian. How do you call this? My grandmother, she was Italian, so I'm a descendant of Italian people, and so I love Italian food. I don't know if that has to do anything. You don't have to be an Italian person or anything like that to enjoy Italian food, but I like the simpleness of the Italian food. Pasta, pizza, lasagna, count me in. I'm all about the carbs. So yeah. What game are you most looking forward to playing? What game would you like to see a sequel made to? I already answered a part of the games that I'm looking forward to. What game would I like to see a sequel made to? A Binary Domain. Man, there's so many games that I would love to see a sequel. Binary Domain, The Last of Us, Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3. Body Harvest for the Nintendo 64, Blast Corps for the Nintendo 64. I would like to see another No More Hero games from Suda51. I could go on and on. I mean, there are so many games out there that I would truly love to see a sequel that will be here all day if I start citing games. Let's see. What's the scariest game you played? Probably Resident Evil 1 or 2 on the PS1, but I can safely say that the most effective scary game that I played is Zombie U for the Wii U. Now they have Zombie for the PS4, but I've heard that version is absolute crap. But let me just say that Zombie U for the Nintendo Wii U is the most stressful and most uncomfortable game that I ever played, and I will never play that game again. I know recently via PlayStation Plus they offered Zombie for free for the PS4, and I downloaded the game, but I'm not gonna play it. It was just the most stressful experience ever. which is good because the game does exactly what it sets out to be. You're trying to survive this zombie apocalypse, but the game is just too stressful. If you lose your life, you lose all your items. It's kind of like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, where you have to go back and try to recover all your items. And I remember I lost like 3 to 4 hours of progress at one point, where I died, and then I started the game, and then I made all my way through this area where I got killed, and I got killed again because I got attacked by a mob of zombies. And it's just the most stressful game that I've ever played. I was able to beat the game, but yeah, it's the most effective survival horror game that I've ever played. It's not the best. The Resident Evil games, in my opinion, are better, but it's the most effective game at that. So Zombie U will probably be my choice. What one game you recommend that you wish everybody would play that maybe a lot of people have not played? Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3 is a good start. It's a very charming platformer that did very bad in terms of sales. And I know I mentioned this game already, but Body Harvest on the Nintendo 64. Although that game has aged terribly, so probably scrap that out. I don't think anybody will enjoy that game if you're playing that game for the first time nowadays. But I will go with Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3, a very underrated platformer. And I love me some platformers, so yeah. Is there any YouTube channels you watch you would like to share that don't necessarily have to be game related or can be? In all honesty, 90% of my let me go back and change that. I would say 50% of my time on YouTube is dedicated to watching gaming channels. For that remaining 40% is dedicated to watching soccer channels or just soccer highlights, basically. And the last 10% is random stuff like cat videos or funny videos, or if there's something that's trending, like a weird video, police chase video, or something like that. So I can't really say I don't watch any comedians. I know there's a lot of people that have their own channel for like comedy purposes, or people that review movies, people that review comic books or magazines, people that review technology and gadgets and everything. I don't really do any of that, so I can't really recommend any non-gaming channels. But as far as gaming channels, I've done shout-out videos in the past, and I don't feel like doing one now because I don't want to leave anybody else behind. But there are so many great people here on YouTube. It's not really hard to find good channels out there. So yeah. Sorry, dig for my old videos. I'm giving shout outs to other channels all the time. So yeah. Let's see. What game has the best story or message in a game that you can relate to, or is the most emotional? I don't think, like as far as my life, I don't think I can relate to video games because my life has been very, I guess, common and very standard for the most part. I grew up, went to school, then went to university, got a job, got married. I don't know. It's a very typical life. So there's, I guess, The Sims will be one game to relate to. As far as the most emotional game, I can definitely say that Okami for the PS2 or the Wii. That game made me shed some tears at one point. If you guys played Okami, you probably know what part of the game it is. So Okami had a very, I don't know, it was very emotional to me. And the same thing with Eco for the PS2. I played the PS3 version. That was the first time that I played that game, and I was blown away by how great that game is. There's no dialogue in the game, but the emotions of communicating between the two characters is just fascinating. I did not shed a tear. I did not get as emotional like I did with Okami, but Eco is another one that should be up there. So yeah. Maybe it can be even told indirectly. Oh, I'm sorry. And that same question had another line, but yeah. Now that you mentioned, because the question was continuous, saying maybe it can be even told indirectly through art style and atmosphere as well. That adds to it. As far as a game that's emotional and the art style. Combining a good art style with emotional parts. Rain for the PlayStation 3. It's a downloadable only game here in North America. There's a physical release in Japan, but I absolutely love that game, and it's in fact it's my favorite downloadable PSN PlayStation Network game, and to the point that I imported the physical version from PlayAsia. That game it's emotional. Again, not at the same level as Okami for me, but yeah, the atmosphere, the art direction, the simplicity in which the story is being told, it's just fantastic. And I really loved Rain, which was developed by the Sony Studios in Japan. So it's a first-party game, PlayStation game that I absolutely loved it. Very, I don't know. It's a very meaningful game in a way for me. And yeah, that's definitely up there with the other two games I already mentioned. Name some good South American food you like or drink we may not have in the States. Food, well, Paraguayan food, it's pretty varied. We eat a lot of asado, which is basically barbecue. You put cow meat on the grill, you cook it, you eat it. In Paraguay we eat a lot of meat, beef, coupled with here in the U.S. they call it yuca. In Paraguay we call it mandioca, which is this starch-based type of food. It's really hard to explain, but there are some other dishes like Paraguayan cuisine that are based on corn, sopa paraguaya, chipaguasu, which are basically like a cornbread, and with cheese and other things, and it's really tasty, and it's part of our traditional cuisine in Paraguay. So you can't really get that here in the United States unless you go to a Paraguayan restaurant, which is a very rare sight. So that's one thing. And as far as drinks, there's a product by the Coca-Cola company that in South America they sell this, especially in Paraguay and in Brazil, which is called Simba Guaraná. And it's basically a soda that is made out of guaraná, which is this very little tiny fruit that is very popular in Brazil and in Paraguay. And it's a very sweet and I think it has caffeine in it. It's like a very energetic type of drink. And the Coca-Cola company actually makes a drink or a soda based on that. And it's my favorite soda by far. I like Coke, I like Pepsi, I like Sprite, Sierra Mist or whatever. I like those sodas, but Guaraná, Simba Guaraná is by far my favorite one. And yeah, it's really tasty, and they don't have that here in the U.S., so it's a shame. What most memorable system or era you played games in? I think I already answered this in a way. It's probably the Super Nintendo era, 16-bit era. With the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo going at it, I think it was just a fantastic time to be a gamer. Fast forwarding to present times, I really enjoyed the last generation with the 360, the PS3, and the Wii going at it. I think the PS3 had a ton of great games. It's one of my favorite consoles of all time, the PlayStation 3. And then the Wii provided that off the mark, weird types of experience with the motion controls. I really like the quirkiness of the Wii and its games. And I think that somewhat translated to this current generation, with the Wii U being the oddball, and the PS4 and Xbox One being the most traditional systems, but with very powerful hardware. So yeah, I think 16-bit era and present times, I'm really enjoying the content in video games. If you read, do you have a favorite book? I honestly do not read. I don't like reading. And when I went to university, my degree was heavily based in mathematics and physics, which means not a whole lot of reading, but numbers. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not really a book person, so I can't answer that. I've read several books throughout my lifetime, but they were mostly forced upon me through projects in school, or writing papers and stuff. So yeah. So thanks for the question, Auslog 007. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Next up we have Nemesis East. He said, congrats. What is your favorite Resident Evil game? Stay tuned. I have a upcoming Resident Evil series discussion in which I'm going to rank my favorite Resident Evil games from worst to my most favorite ones. So stay tuned. Sorry, I'm not answering that, but I'm going to have a whole video dedicated to that question. Your favorite game genres and least favorites. One of the things that I really enjoy about me as a gamer is that I can enjoy just about any genre of games. And you guys are witnesses of that if you watch my pickup videos. You'll see that every month I pick up games that are platformers, first-person shooters, RPGs, strategy RPGs, JRPGs, Western RPGs, fighting games, racing games, dungeon crawlers, I don't know. You name it, the sports games. You name the genre, and I'm always picking up a little bit of everything each month. And when I look at my shelf and I see all those games, I absolutely love the fact that I'm not nitpicky when it comes to genres, because whenever I finish a game, the most rewarding thing, or the most fun thing for me, is to look at my shelf and be like, okay, I want to play this game right here, I want to play that game right here, regardless of the genre. If it's an action game, platformer, 3D platformer, 2D platformer, Metroidvania game, sports game, a soccer game, basketball game, RPG, first-person shooter, you guys name the genre, I'm always willing to give games a shot. And that is the one thing that I'm mostly thankful for. I honestly, I know I'm subscribed to a lot of you guys, and a lot of you guys concentrate on one genre or just a few selected genres or types of games. And for some reason, the JRPGs here are a very common thing here on YouTube. For some reason, I don't know. I like those games, but I enjoy, I don't know, sports games as much as I enjoy JRPGs. And I feel bad for you guys, for those of you that only play RPGs, for example. I really feel bad for you, because you're trapped in this bubble and you're not willing to give other games a chance. So I'm always down. I'm always down to trying new things, new genres, new games, different publishers, different developers, different console manufacturers. You name the game, I'm down for it. But if I have to answer your question, of course I have favorite game genres, and my number one is platformers. The soul and the most basic concept of video games are resumed in the platforming genre. If aliens come from space and invade Earth, and they ask, can you show me what a video game is? The number one game I'm going to put to show them, it'll be a Mario game. You move left or right, you jump with the A button, you run with the Y button or the B button, and that's it. Don't die. Don't fall in the pits, and don't get hit by enemies. Jump on top of them, and you're good. As simple as that, but very fun, very effective. So I really like platforming games. In my opinion, they are the core, the soul of gaming, if you will. Least favorite genres? I don't know. I would probably say first-person dungeon crawlers, games like the Etrian Odyssey games, just because I always have a very, very hard time getting into those games. But again, I do own a bunch of those. I played a bunch of those, and I'm not opposed to playing or buying more games in that genre. It's just, it's not my number one choice or priority. What are the best deals you got when hunting for games in the wild? I'm gonna go back to one of my previous questions here by PlayOngo. I think I mentioned that I got a pretty good deal at Goodwill, so revert back to that question towards the beginning of the video. And how do you balance time to play several games? That's a very good question, and it's really tough. I work full time, 40 hours a week. More often than not, it's more than 40 hours a week, and I think it helps a lot that gaming is my #1 hobby. So whenever I have free time or alone time for myself, I opt to play a video game in lieu of, say, watching a movie, or in lieu of, I don't know, going out for a bike ride or anything like that. I do like outdoor activities, don't get me wrong. I'm always trying to go out for a bike ride or going to the beach and whatnot. But again, if my #1 choice always reverts to playing games. So I think that helps a lot, because a lot of my friends, for example, they're pretty big movie buffs. So the new releases, they have to go to the movies and watch the movies, and I don't do that. The last movie I watched in the theaters was the Star Wars Episode 7, which, as we all know, it was released several months ago. So yeah, I'm not a pretty big movie person or TV show person for that matter. So it helps that video games are my #1 hobby, if you will. So that helps me dedicate more time to games. And so yeah, that's that. And that was the last question by him or her. Nemesis East. Last question, a very late entry. Just before I started recording this video, I saw 22, I believe, which is a new member here in the YouTube community. He has a great channel. Not a whole lot of videos, obviously, because he's new, but I heartily encourage you to go and check out his channel. Very, very cool guy, and he's getting started in this, so he needs all the support he can get, and he has really cool content. So go and check him out. Sorry for the late post. Just moved recently, been really busy. Wondering what you think about the future of collecting games as far as regular editions and special collector's editions go. With almost every game having a collector's edition nowadays, do you think those will be sought out versions for retro collectors 10 years from now? Or do you think it's just mass-produced fluff that no one will care about? It's a very good question. And it's a very tough one to answer. I'm noticing a trend, especially on Western games, where they release special editions and they're like, yeah, it's limited. We're only making like 10,000, 20,000 copies of a collector's edition, but in the end, they don't sell out. And if you're patient and you wait a little bit, you can get them like a year later for a very reduced price. Case in point, the 25th Street Fighter Anniversary Special Edition that came with the Ryu statue, the Ryu black belt that he uses. It also came with all the soundtrack CDs, a bunch of games, and I remember I got that on day one, and I returned it because I'm like, no way, this is gonna drop down in price. And sure enough, just a couple months after, I was able to get, I think the original price for that was $150, and I was able to get it for $60. Excuse me. So in a lot of the Western games, if you're patient, the prices will drop. Same thing with BioShock 2. When that first came out, I bought it on day one because I'm a huge BioShock fan. But I bought the regular edition. Played through the game, beat it, got the Platinum Trophy, sold the game. And then by the time I did that, the collector's edition was on sale. So I rebought it, and I paid $60 on day one for BioShock 2. And I think I bought the collector's edition for like $50, which is less than what I paid for originally. And it was a pretty cool collector's edition to boot, because it came with like a vinyl and a bunch of art and things like that. So an art book and everything. So I was pretty happy with that. Now, with that being said, going back to the question, will these items be very expensive and sought after 10 years from now? I think it depends on the type of games. We have seen games like I think Bravely Default, the first one, for example, for the 3DS, the collector's edition for the first game is going up for a lot of money now on eBay. Thankfully, I own that, so I don't have to worry about that. And it seems to be the trend with Japanese RPGs. They seem to hold their value better over the years. Again, I don't know why. It's related to this stigma here in the YouTube community. Maybe you guys that like RPGs can help me answer the question, but it seems like Japanese games hold their collector's edition values way better than Western games. I know as far as Western games, for example, the very first collector's edition for Dead Space, which came with like the plasma cutter weapon replica, I know that goes for a lot of money. So it's I don't know, it's a very strange market. It's a very strange it fluctuates a lot, and you know, there are some modern games, for example, I think it was I forgot what game, that it was like Halo 5, and the collector's edition is going for like dirt cheap nowadays. So it's really hard to predict. But if I had to say, I think there will be a market for these games, but it will be very specific to either Japanese RPGs or Nintendo games, like the collector's edition for example, Tokyo Mirage Sessions that just came out. 10 years from now, maybe people will go crazy to get the contents of that. I think there's some kind of investment value in that. But for me, you know, I just buy whatever I like. If I feel like I really want to get a collector's edition, I put the money in. But more often than not, I'm trying to avoid them because I just don't have any room. And apparently the trend nowadays is for collector's edition to have all these huge statues and huge figures that I just don't have the room. And I don't know how people do it. I know those Tales of Exilia collector's edition, they come in a box that's like this big. And I don't know what people do with those, but I think they will hold their value at the very least. And best case scenario, I think they will go up in price, most definitely. So that's it, guys. That's the end of the questions. I know there's a bunch of you guys that posted in the comment section that did not have any questions. You guys were just congratulating me for reaching 1,000 subs. So thank you so much, guys, for participating, whether you posted questions or not. And for those of you that haven't done neither of those things, just being subscribed to my channel means a lot to me. So we are at 1 hour and 27 minutes. I know this has been a very long video. Hopefully you guys lasted for this long and enjoyed the video, and hopefully I answer your questions to the best of my possibilities. If not, if you guys want to know, if you guys want me to answer more questions, send me. I can answer them through like private message or whatever, or do a second Q&A video in the near future if you guys want me to. But yeah, for now, thanks again for watching this video. Thanks for participating, and I will see you all guys later in more videos. Thanks.